Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining Gym Life Podcast for another special interview. And this is a real special one for me, having a guy on that I've been following for quite some time and certainly been an inspiration to me. As you're looking at him on the screen, everybody probably is pretty familiar, but let me give you this guy's resume. Not only is he a pro strongman, he was a pro wrestler, he was a pro bodybuilder, he's a trainer, a coach, an author, I'm sure a nutritionist, a family man. Jon, I don't think your resume, I don't think anybody can do your resume justice. It's about as long as my arm.
I appreciate you having me on the show. Thanks for the the very nice intro, and I'll tell you, as I get older, one of the things that I value the most about my resume is being a better family man. It's important because obviously in in the world we live in where we're constantly trying to achieve these great things, you can't lose the perspectives that mean the most, because you strip it all away, you don't have your family. What do you got left?
Yeah, there's a little bit of growth in that too, though, isn't there, Jon? I mean, you find yourself buried in what you love, and I'm sure you went through some moments in your life where you realized that more when you kind of turned around, huh?
Yeah, I just literally today is the first day my brother. So I have my brother, he lives up in Alaska, and so he came down. He spent a couple of weeks with us, with my wife and I. We went to our house in Mexico, and the reason I brought him down is I bought the lot next to me with the idea that I could hopefully coax him into building a house down there next to mine. So anyway, it was a success, but he was with us for over 2 weeks, and it's such a reminder of how precious life is. And more importantly, it's like all of the things that we work for, they're it doesn't mean shit unless you have someone that you love to share it with. So it's kind of crazy with my brother being here for that length of time, 2 weeks, and it was, we grew up together. So it was 4 years apart.
When's the last time you guys were together? 2 weeks, Jon, with your busy schedule?
Oh, fuck. Probably, decades.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I know what your brother looks like because I saw one of your videos you were shooting with him fucking around in the car the other day, I guess on the way home or something. But yeah, you're right, man. I mean, family really, you can take all your accolades in life. I don't care what they are and how high you've ever been. When you turn around, there's nobody there. That's a pretty lonely feeling. So I'm with you 100%. And it's something that I learned as I got older too. I took it for granted a lot when I was younger. But certainly I think older and wiser prevails with some of us anyhow.
Yeah. Yeah. There's some, obviously some people, and we've seen it here and there, that they get a little too attached to achieving what they want to achieve without keeping that balance, and I thank my lucky stars, because that was me at different points in my career. But I really thank my lucky stars that everything was able to stay balanced enough for me to end up here. I'm just turned 50 years old.
Yeah.
And so, being 50, Christ, you're starting to realize that, hey, there's this whole second phase of life. You busted your ass so long to get here. You got what you want. And now, did you actually maintain the relationships that matter to you to
enjoy it? Yeah. How's that going so far? You feeling pretty good about it?
Yeah, no, I'm, the way that I am as a person, I'm very loyal, and loyalty is something that is thin in our world. And so the loyalty that I have with my friends is really what's maintained that. They've understood what I've been doing. But when push comes to shove, looking back on our relationships, there are those times where, sorry about that.
No worries.
Are you there? My assistant just called. Forgive me. They're looking back at those times where your character, who you are as a person, is valued enough that the people are kind of let you do what you've got to do, knowing that when time permits, the schedules slow down, that you're that person that they value. And so, obviously, I think, I'm really thankful for the relationships that I have. So
yeah, you seem like a guy that's you said loyal, and at knowing kind of you through sort of this social media spectrum, and it's funny, you feel like you really get to know somebody, and for a guy like you, we do. I mean, you wear everything on your sleeve. You always have, and there's these different sides of you which we all appreciate, but that's certainly a quality that yeah, there's no convincing necessary there. I know how loyal you are to the whole community for that matter. You know, this all started for you. It's funny because when we look at Jon Andersen, first off, you're like the real Benjamin Button. You never really age. I don't know what the fuck's going on there, but you look probably as good as you did now as you did 20 fucking years ago. I don't get it.
Well, brother, I'll tell you the fucking secret right now, because I get this question asked all the time. You know, I'm 50, and if you go back, and I mean, I challenge anybody to go on the internet and try to find a picture of me in the last 25 years when I haven't been in shape.
Yeah.
I mean,
no, it's not there, man. I looked.
And I'll tell you right now, it's one simple concept, not that it's an easy concept, it's fucking diet. I have been, I mean, number one, I pioneered the path of my own organically developed diet, which obviously that's what I coach and I change people's life with, which is wonderful. But I'm the walking proof.
Yeah.
As people think, oh, you know, I'm going to take a break from my diet. I'm going to take a break from this. Well, there's the problem. If you put something together that you enjoy, you don't want to take a break. So how have I done this for 3 decades, been like this? Because I eat in a way that keeps me in great shape that I enjoy.
Yeah.
And I don't need to take a break, you know, it's even with life in general. I mean, I'm a big connoisseur of, you know, your life needs to be a place that you want to get up. Don't just wake up by accident because you got to fucking go through another Monday through Friday.
Right.
Wake up with some fucking relentlessness. Let those heat hit the fucking floor and go get this shit. And life, in diet, all of these things that people want a vacation from. Right. That's the problem. God, sorry about this, brother. Jesus Christ, hold on. Yeah. Of course, you know what? My for whatever reason, the link you sent me on my computer wasn't clickable, so on my phone. And now
that's okay, forgive me. Nobody's gonna mind a bit. Nobody's gonna mind.
Okay. So the bottom line is the diet. If you have a diet you enjoy and you're getting good results, and when I say enjoy, I'm not talking about pizza and ice cream. You know, anybody can enjoy that diet.
Yeah.
But when you're getting great results and your diet is something that it's not like you can't wait to eat your food, but you're happy when it's time. It's very fucking easy to maintain great shape for a length of time, and that's the secret for me.
Yeah.
And the secret for most people is that they've not found a formula that works for them, that gets them great results, that they enjoy executing.
Yeah, that they enjoy doing, because that's your life.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just what you
that's
do.
It.
Yeah.
People take vacations. You know, I've never, ever, and I will never, ever fucking go on a vacation, because you take me away from my life. All I want to do is get back to it.
Yeah.
You know,
right? If your life feels like a vacation, why do you want to leave it?
Exactly. And so that when you think of that premise with your diet, you can do, I mean, you could train once a week. You could train 6 times a week. Fuck, training is such a small piece of this equation.
It really is.
If you're eating properly, I mean, literally, as I get older, as much as I fucking hate to say this, I actually do train less because I get better results.
Mm-hmm.
When I was younger, the shit that I could do, I mean, how, like, some of the stuff that I did in training when I was younger and I could recover from, I look back now and I go, fuck, how did that happen?
Yeah,
now it's like, now I'm basically working up to a monster set, you know, when before I would have 5 fucking monster sets.
Right.
You know,
right.
So
we all kind of fall into DC training when we get older, don't we? Feeder,
and so
we're done.
As much as I love to do those 5 monster sets, I'm not going to be training that muscle group next week if I do it.
That's right. That's right. More days to recover for sure. More days to recover.
So on that level, to answer your question, very long answer to a short question. How do I stay in great shape? The fucking diet. It is that fucking simple, man.
Yeah, it's funny you say that, because everybody knows that, John, you know, but few people want to admit it. I mean, it's crazy that really is simply what it comes down to. And I would agree with you, and I got to get better myself, but not too bad for a guy that's right there with you in age. You know, I want to go back to Jon Andersen before the fat kid, right? You talk about the fat kid a lot.
Yeah.
And the fat kid it's not in the way you describe it. The fat kid isn't looking at a fat kid and saying, I don't want to be the fat kid anymore. It's, I don't want to make the choices the fat kid was making anymore.
Yes.
Isn't that the way you kind of describe it?
Yeah. I mean, of course, you're a fat kid, so you're not getting any girls, you're kind of on the lower end of the social platform when you're a porky fucker, because usually self-esteem gets, reduced with all this. So there's a host of problems that come along with this whole thing. But, what came down to was, it was the choices I was making that was keeping me there. That was the most upsetting, because even as that fat little kid, I had the flicker of just fucking go, just, okay. I could just kind of just decide, boom, and make a change. The problem was I just couldn't fucking maintain that change for any length of time.
Yeah, right. That would make a difference for sure. Yeah.
And so what killed me was, fuck, I did it again. God damn it. And that's really what tears you up. Anybody who's had a weight problem, and keep in mind, I developed a fucking whopping eating disorder. So even though at 25, I'm fucking jacked and I'm strong, I'm just fucking cock strong. I mean, I could walk into any gym and just blow people's minds, I still had that fucking eating disorder where, this is true fucking story. I mean, I would like kind of lose, I'd have something that would trigger me, because it's all trigger based.
Right.
Next thing you know, I'd be in the fucking grocery store and I would be just eating fucking shit as I'm walking through, filling up a brown bag of just complete sugar and junk.
Yeah.
And by the time I get to the fucking checkout stand, I'm not even hungry anymore, but I'm in the mode.
I got you. Yeah.
And so then I take this brown bag back to my apartment. I'm going to sit there and fucking eat this thing for the next 24 hours. And anyway, but the bottom line was the habits stayed with me long after physically I had changed. And so, I mean, going back to the true story. So, okay, I'm 25, 26 years old. I'm probably 270 pounds, just crazy strong. And people look at you in the gym and they think, oh my God, look at the stature, because you've actually achieved something. Well, they don't see what I'm dealing with in private. So
right.
A buddy of mine comes over. He was coming over to watch some football. Well, I had completely lost track of time. I've been, brown bagging it, so to speak, for the last 24 hours. I've been filled up a brown bag full of shit. And so I'm laying on my couch in a little pair of fucking bikini underwear, because of course in those days that's what I wore, trying to be the fucking the big sexy fucker. Bikini underwear, right, on this fucking leather couch, and I am sweating profusely because I've been eating so much. I'm laying on my back. I got a Tupperware of M&Ms on my chest, and the football game's on. I forget my buddy's on the way over, and I'm not even watching. My eyes are closed, and I'm literally feeding myself one fucking M&M at a time. And it was painful. I couldn't breathe. I wasn't enjoying myself. But that's the thing that comes along with, when you have an eating disorder. So it going right back to when I was fucking 12, fuck, you did it again.
Right.
Well, I did that for the next 15 years.
Yeah.
So to answer your question, yes, it wasn't just being the fucking fat kid. It was the behavior pattern.
Yes.
That was so fucking, it was just demoralizing.
So food was addictive to you. It's interesting to hear you say that. Interesting to hear you say that, because we do a lot of interviews here, and we interview a lot of high level women's athletes, and many of them, I would say 80% of them, have come forward in our conversations with these eating disorders. It's the men really, I think, out there that probably carry a bigger albatross with that than the women. And it's really interesting that you say that you have an eating disorder, because I've always thought that men have a worse problem with it than women do. Maybe because of the stresses of social life, maybe, I don't know. Why do you think that is?
Well, for me, I think man, woman, whatever it is, if you share my problem, it's life. It was basically stress.
Okay.
Food was comfort. So obviously for a man, career and all the things that go with it, that's going to create that stress, which you're going to need some comfort from. So that's, for me, that's where it was. Females, they have their own set of stresses. Now, obviously, like, I kind of had almost the female set of stressors also, because I always had myself under this really tight scrutiny of how I looked, because it's what I was trying to do.
Yeah.
Well, I'd look in the mirror. Of course, I never saw what I really looked like. I still don't.
Yeah, right.
I still see the fucking fat little boy on the other side of the mirror. I look in the mirror, I get upset. Fucking first thing I'm going to do is run for some cookies. Sure. And I'm sure that's probably right, because a female, especially in our society, a female, her need to look good obviously is top notch. It's just kind of the way that we're bred to think. Females, they want to be attractive, so they'll find a good mate. I guess the bottom line is our society creates a whole shitload of problems for everybody, no matter what you are, man or woman, child for that matter. And if you use food for comfort, you are going down a slippery fucking slope, my brother.
For a lot of reasons, not just looking good,
but
health and obviously longevity, John. And you're a perfect example of the longevity aspect of it. Now you're still maintaining a top-notch physique, top-notch health at now 50 years old, and Jesus, there's no stopping you. When did you first pick up weights? I mean, at what point did that fat kid say, okay, I'm going to get in the gym? Who encouraged you or inspired you to do that?
It's kind of interesting, because the first time I ever saw Arnold Schwarzenegger, it was the movie Conan the Barbarian. And I'd never seen another human being look that way. And I was just like, something in my chest just moved. It was just like, bam. I mean, it was like, I can't even explain, something was different at that point. So I knew what I wanted, but I just didn't really understand how to get there. And so I guess when it came down to it, my dad, he gave me a weight set, but my dad was one of those, even when I became who I became, he trained me one time. Yes. So he didn't participate much other than giving me shit. So he gave me the weight set, but I fucked around a little bit, but I didn't have a program, didn't have the willpower, didn't have, the kitchen was not far away where the cookies were. So I was either going to eat cookies or I was going to lift weights. Yeah. I had no middle. And so that's kind of where it started, but I can't say I made a lot of progress. It wasn't until high school. Okay. If you wanted to play football, you had to take weightlifting for PE. And so that's where it started. And even as a little fat fucker, I had kind of realized that, okay, yes, you're kind of pathetic, but you're still pretty strong.
I was going to say, you were still an athlete. I mean, I saw pictures of you. Yeah. You were still athletic looking. Yeah. Yeah. I was, when I was a junior in high school, so I was a really late bloomer. I didn't actually get hair in my nuts till middle of my junior year, And that's fun. If you can imagine the fucking hazing that went on in the fucking showers in those days, because hey, John, you don't even want it now. So what's No,
I shave it all off now. So, but at the time, Jesus Christ, all you want is just give me a hair here. Fuck, right. Yeah. Anyway, so I'm sorry, I forgot what I was leading back into.
I'm sorry.
What were we talking about?
Yeah.
No. What were we talking about? You had asked me questions.
So football, weightlifting got you in. You're doing well.
Yeah. So as a junior, it was almost immediate. As soon as I fucking grew the first hair on my dick, my fucking strength just skyrocketed. Sure. Yeah. So I was the second junior in the high school to squat 405. Which is a pretty good fucking squat for a 17-year-old kid. That's healthy. And then, as my hormones started kicking in from being, in puberty, everything just kind of changed. My shape changed. And then it was pretty fucking clear by the end of high school, I was far better at lifting weights than the sports that I was lifting weights for. So at that point it was, I remember going to college, and I was fully hooked at that point. Yeah. I went to college purely because I knew it was going to be, I told my mom, I'm going to go for 5 years because school was never my strong suit. Right. And she was good with that. She said, just take one less class per semester. It's 5 years. And I was like, this is 5 years for me to put on like 100 pounds. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
And so I checked into college about 180, maybe a little less.
Yeah.
And checked out of college about, in the low 270s. So I was pretty fucking close.
Yeah, you were close. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's some healthy growing in 5 years. Yeah.
Yeah. And these were times where, I mean, there was no social media. There was no internet at this point. There was no way to gather information.
Yeah.
It was just fucking trial and error.
Yeah.
And so this is where my whole system started to develop.
Well, you were in California, right?
At that point, I was actually in Oregon. I went to University of Portland.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. So what led you down the bodybuilding path then? Where did you? I'm sure you walked into a gym. Somebody said, "Dude, you got to get on stage."
Well, it was like, really at that point, all you had was magazines.
Yeah,
there was no strongman of anything. There was no journals. There was, if you caught it on TV once in a while, that's all you got.
Yeah.
And so anyway, so I gravitated toward bodybuilding because I could get the fucking magazine every month.
Sure.
So that's where that's where I wanted to be a pro bodybuilder right out of the gate. And then somewhere along the lines, my interest kind of shifted towards strength because I realized, okay, there's guys that are big and look strong. And then there's guys that look big and they're far fucking stronger than they look. And I realized I was one of those guys.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I thought, well, I guess looking good is really just a positive side effect of the way that I eat now, because I had developed a way of eating where I could overeat because I couldn't stop overeating. So
Gotcha.
my deep water methodology in the early days was me finding a system of eating where I could overeat and not get fat. That's how the whole fucking thing started.
You were kind of ahead of your time, really. That's a pretty young age to kind of determine that course of action. It really is, especially with all the influences being a young man.
Oh, and I'm just trying to figure out in the most single file way of eating. Like, okay, I'm going to eat fucking bread. I'm going to eat lots of bread. I hope that's going to make me strong. Wasn't fucking doing it. Right. And then one day, my mom, there wasn't any bread in the house. I'm like, well, fuck, because the way I thought, I was just going to eat this. That made sense to me. So there's no bread in the house. So I opened up the fucking cupboard. It was a shitload of tuna. Well, I guess I'm eating tuna. Yeah. So I started I'm eating fucking cans of tuna all day.
Yeah.
And I mean, literally in the second day of this, because she would go to the store once a week. So I basically figured I got 3 or 4 days eating tuna.
Yeah.
But by the second or the third day, probably the second day, I was like, something is different in the gym. I mean, I was like, oh, fuck. I mean, because I wasn't eating any protein. I was eating all fucking bread.
Yeah. Yeah. I would imagine it would be different.
There's no muscle building properties in carbohydrate. It's energy.
Yeah.
And so anyway, I started eating all this tuna and I'm like, my strength is just fucking catapulted. Yeah. And it's like, at this point, I don't give a shit if I'm eating fucking smelly, wet dog turds. Yeah. If my strength is going like that, give me another one.
Go with what's working. It's interesting that you say that, John, because back then, you're right, the magazines were your only resource. Dieting, where were you going to find shit out about dieting? I mean, really, there wasn't a lot back then that even in the magazines that told you what to do.
Yeah, 100%. So
yeah,
that's when I discovered protein.
Yeah.
And then I started, keep in mind, when I was overeating white bread, I was still having bouts with feeling like I was fat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I still have bouts with that. But as I started to eat protein, I started to realize that I felt better. I was stronger and I was visibly changing in a good way.
Yeah.
So that's where, literally from that point, this is probably 1991, maybe.
Okay. Wow.
And a long fucking time ago.
21 years old then. You were just probably 21.
Yeah. And so at that point, I realized that protein was the thing. So from that point forward, I started eating at least 4 pounds of cooked flesh.
Yeah.
It's obviously increased since in an average day. I'll probably eat more like 5 or 6 now.
Yeah.
But you can't go back in my life and find any length of time, meaning like you might have had a day where I was off because I was, in transition, who knows, but you're not going to find a week. You're not going to find a week where I wasn't consuming at least 4 pounds of flesh. And this is cooked. So do the math on that. Uncooked, that's probably more like 6 pounds.
Sure. Yeah, it makes sense, John. You've been on that path for your whole life. I mean, this isn't This wasn't some
Yes.
revelation you had in your 30s. I mean, you started
No.
looking right in college, man, which is amazing really to me, because the longevity, I'm going to use that word over and over again.
Yeah.
If anybody wants to know how to look good, you know, through 30 or 40 years of lifting, I mean, go to deep water, check out what you're doing. When did you get on stage for the first time bodybuilding, and what brought you there?
Interesting story. So basically, I was in my wrestling career. I was wrestling in Japan, and basically the time comes where they kind of they just had enough. I was 42 years old, right?
Yeah.
Actually, excuse me, I was 41. You know, it's just they just realized it's not time to reinvest in a 40-year-old. And so basically that it was, I could kind of feel it, you know, the contract talks are starting to float around.
Yeah.
I'm not being asked to come into the office.
Yeah. Right.
So you just kind of, you know, it's coming. And the year before I'd kind of felt that way, but next thing you know, at the 11th hour, I got re-upped. Well, this year I was like, okay, I guess that's it. So I basically started a prep, my last tour in December, when I was actually on a tour in Japan. And when I say a prep, all I was really doing was really starting to kind of eat on schedule. I was really making sure that my meal timing was on the money. So I had my first month of prep. I was in Japan, came home, and kept going. Did my first ever bodybuilding show. It would have been March of 2014. That was my first ever bodybuilding show.
Okay.
I did it was the I can't remember what it's called. It's the biggest Northern California show.
Okay.
And I didn't really understand where I was going to stack up. I'd been off wrestling the last 8 years.
Yeah.
And so I show up, I entered the open and in the 40s, because I'm 42 at this point. I just turned up. My birthday's in January. So I go there and I walk in. Keep in mind, I've been sponsored my whole fucking career from strongman through wrestling. So I walk in my MHP fucking sweatsuit with my name on it, and all the fucking guys think I'm fucking guest poser.
Yeah, you know? I can imagine. Yeah.
They're like, you're a guest poser. Like, no, dude, I'm competing. This is my first show. And they're like, and guys were coming up going, you know, in a fun way, you just really fucked this up for me. I was going to win this, but I haven't even taken my sweatsuit off yet, you know, but that's just the mind of a bodybuilder, you know? So
Jon.
Anyway, so I go out in the 40s. That's the first call.
Yeah.
And it looked like somehow I got put in the wrong group, because nothing saying bad about any of those guys that were, you know, 42, 43. I was the same age, but you know, they're, you know, 210 dripping wet, maybe a light shadow of abdominals, you know, and keep in mind, I'm not downplaying anybody that's getting on the stage. It was just such an enormous difference from where I was to them. And so then the open came and I did it again. It was like, okay, these guys are in shape, but they just don't look developed. And so I wiped out that first show, and I actually met Hani Rambod is one of the promoters of that show. And he said, dude, you just need to keep going and get your pro card.
Yeah.
So in June of that year, which should have been 4 months later, I went to my first pro qualifier and won my pro card. So I won my bodybuilding pro card in two contests.
I can tell you right now, there's probably I probably can't count guys for one hand that's ever done that in their career, honestly. Seth Feroce, I think's the other guy. I think I know.
Yeah. When I finished, Dave Palumbo reached out. He's like, dude, I need you on my podcast. You know? So I did that podcast with him later that night. And he's like, dude, he goes, there's a lot of the bodybuilding community, myself included, that are really frustrated with you right now, because you were an unknown last year. You did your first show this year. Now you're pro. Most of us, and he was including himself, have been trying to turn pro for a decade or more and didn't make it. And so I didn't really, honestly, at the time when I was getting ready to win my pro card, I didn't really understand what a thing it was going to be when I did it. But in my mind, here's a kind of a funny side note story. So when I put my mind to something, I'm going to do it. There's no plan B. Plan B fucks you up.
Right.
So I'm going to the show with my training partner. He's kind of he's just kind of there to make sure I'm okay. And our fucking plane gets canceled. And so, but the bags have already gone on another plane to the destination. So I'm separated from my food. I'm in this airport, and I basically have a plane going out in like, it was like 6 or 7 hours. So, I mean, you're in the final approach to a bodybuilder. This is not a good scenario.
No.
And so thank God that my training partner had some chicken breast that he kept in his carry-on. So I was rationing chicken breast, taking salt, because I was basically, at that point I was salt loading.
Oh boy.
And so I'm in the airport, and I'm dead fucking tired. I find this place to go off where it was kind of a construction area. So I went just beyond the tape where it was quiet, I could sleep. And my training partner was kind of back there checking on me. I fell asleep. I have this dream that I'm fucking taking a piss. Well, I was peeing in my fucking pants. I was laying on that fucking floor. I was laying on the fucking floor of the fucking airport.
Oh,
and I'm dreaming, because you know how much water you're drinking.
Yes.
And I'm dreaming that I'm fucking peeing in the bathroom.
Oh no.
And I woke up going, what the fuck is that? And I had fucking peed a lot. It wasn't a little bit of pee. We're not talking about a little spot like this.
No, it goes a long ways.
From my waist to my knees was pretty fucking wet. And so I'm fucking laying there, and I'm like, I sit up, and I'm just, this look on my face. I'm just kind of just like, I don't know what it is. I'm disgusted. I'm worried, all this shit. And my training partner watched me, goes, what happened? And I said, dude, if all this shit hasn't gone wrong, I just fucking pissed my pants, you know? And so right then there, it's just getting worse and worse. And he looks at me and he goes, what are you going to do if you don't win? And I looked at him and I said, I haven't thought about that.
Right. And
that was it. Then it was like, okay, it doesn't matter what happens next. I'm going to fucking go win this thing, because it was like that moment of you so much bad has gone. You just pissed in your pants, and you still haven't thought.
Yeah.
You still haven't thought about not winning. So I was realized, okay, it doesn't matter. Cut my fucking left fingers off. I'm still going to go win this.
I'm going to be fine. I got this. Yeah. Oh, geez.
So that was one of those profound moments, man. I look back at that all the time. I thought, that's the fucking zone you get into when you really want to achieve something, because you don't even have the thought process of what if. It doesn't exist.
Yeah.
You know?
No, well, and it takes a certain kind of person to understand what that means. And I mean, you're that guy for sure. You know, it surprises me, and I guess I didn't know this. I assumed you got your pro card before your wrestling career started. I mean, you probably could have. I mean, that would have been an easy guess, but.
So basically, I mean, my career is all lined up almost like the universe did it for me. Yeah. Because as a younger man, I'm big, but not considered to the current strongman of today. Right. And so I was in my strength career, it was the Morris Puginowski era. It was, yeah. And so they called it the athletic era, because they're really tailoring the sport around him, because he was such a fucking star. Yeah, that's right. So he had to lift up heavy shit, but he had to run. And so it made a guy like me, 6 foot, 315, 320. I was in the hunt, I was strong enough, but it wasn't like, in today's standards, if you're not fucking 6'8", right, you're a midget. Yeah. So my strength career, my strongman career, the time was perfect because it fit me in terms of the athletic era. Then wrestling came along. I basically kind of went from strongman to wrestling because I was like, okay, one of my goals was I wanted to die feeling like I was an athlete that actually made his fucking living being an athlete, not someone who, very few, especially in those days, very few strongmen actually made anything from strongman. Nope. And so I really wanted to feel like, okay, yes, you're an athlete and you fucking made a living as an athlete. So that's why I went to wrestling. And you went to wrestling. So you did that. So now my timeline, I guess my notes aren't accurate at all, because I thought that, so your strongman came first. Mm-hmm. It came first because I remember meeting you or meeting you sort of running India, I guess, at a St. Paddy's Day event in 2006. That would have been, that's when I was in my strength career. That's when I was competing strongman.
Yeah, and you were
So it was just
infamous
a
for those
couple years
beanies. And I
later.
remember there's an iconic picture of you wearing that fire hat beanie you were wearing. You know what picture I'm talking about?
Yeah,
That's a
yeah,
great
yeah,
picture, man. I remember, I
yeah,
mean, I was a huge fan of the strongman scene back there. You back then you were a part of that. And I just remember that picture. But I remember meeting you there. And I think who was there was Van Hatfield was there. I think John Beatty was there. Maybe
yeah.
Dave Ostlin if he had his pro card then. I can't remember. I think it was a pro-am even, wasn't it? Those South Carolina shows, those
You
St.
know,
Pat shows.
what I remember was that it was the festival, so it was a big fun
Big.
contest. I don't
Yeah.
remember much more than that, unfortunately.
No, I bet not. Well, that was a different era. That's why it surprised me is big and as strong and is a stature that you had coming out of college. There was a window there of how many years until you sort of figured out your path.
Yeah, well, I mean, and that's an interesting part of my life, that window of time, because I came out of college, I was strong enough to go do it,
Yeah.
but I didn't believe it.
Yeah.
I was still kind of shucking all of the shit. And it wasn't until a buddy of mine, he was a training partner when we were younger. He's like, dude, so you're so much stronger than you look. Every gym we ever went to, you were the strongest guy there. And he was just like, he didn't have the issues that I had, so he kind of, he lived more of a normal life in terms of what he saw in the mirror and all that kind of stuff. Me, I didn't see that. And so he finally just said, look, if you don't do it for yourself, do it for me. Because it was like, he kind of pushed me all that way through.
Yeah.
And so all right, fuck. So that's why I gave my first strongman contest a try. And then it was just almost like bodybuilding. Won my first one, won my pro card.
Yeah.
Qualified for nationals, placed at the first nationals, placed, I think, 7th or 8th. And then got noticed to go and won my first and only, I should say, international show, coming right out of the gate, you know?
Yeah. I mean, you always placed high though. I know your placings were always like top. You were podium most of the time. I know that. What was that? If looking at your history, I thought a unique event that we don't see anymore that I wish was back were those team events you were doing back in like 2005, 2006.
Yeah.
How much fun were those, man? Those team events.
Oh, dude, it was so much fun because keep in mind, when you're traveling with, guys that you've been competing with all year long, and keep in mind, even when we're competing against each other, we're still buddies, we're still pushing each other. Sure. But now it's a different element when, okay, we're taking the top 5 in the country, we're clinging them together, and we're going to go compete with the other nations. It just becomes much more of a patriotic, if you will.
Oh, I bet. That's exactly what I was thinking, John.
And so it's, it's almost like, like I can remember there was an event, it was somewhere deep in Ukraine, like right on the Russian border. And it was US, our team versus the Russian team. And it was the last event that was going to decide who was 3rd or 4th. Well, you wanted to be in 3rd because that means you qualified to go do the same team event with just the top contenders in the tropics. Yeah. The qualifier was in Eastern Europe, which was a much different deal, So anyway, so it was basically a pole push was the event. It's for anybody who doesn't know, think of it like a tug of war, but it's a big fucking huge heavy pole. So
I just watched it the other day. Yeah. Yeah.
And we ended up going into this pole push and there was no time limit. It was fucking brutal. It was 2 out of 3. And it was like, we ended up winning to get 3rd, which was all we wanted to do because we went into that contest and we're the American pussies. That's the way the Europeans used to look at America in those days because we didn't have anybody in the top 2 or 3 of the world.
No.
So we were the ones trying to fucking jockey ourselves to be reckoned with. And I remember we won that. And that was kind of for us and for even a lot of the other teams, it was just kind of like, okay, these guys they're not quite as pussyish as we thought because we fucking battled. I remember that thing was over and I was fucking zonked. I was like, oxygen, give me some,
Yeah, that event
and
is brutal. I don't think we'll ever see that event again, honestly. I mean, maybe if we had a team event, but even then, I don't even know if they would do it. That is a brutal event. Who was on your
oh,
team there? It was
dude.
Van Hatfield, I
So it's
think Jeff
me.
Dolan,
Yeah, Jeff.
you.
So it's me, Van, Jeff Dolan, Travis Ortemeyer.
That's right, Travis Orton. Yeah,
Yeah.
Travis is still going at it pretty strong. You keep in touch with these guys still?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Van, I mean, some of the guys that you travel with, you just never, the bond is never going away. I mean,
Yeah,
I talk with Van all the time. Um, I mean, we clicked from the start.
yeah,
Some guys you really click with. Travis, because he went on a little bit of a hiatus. He got kind of
did.
pulled off the wrong
Yeah,
track with some drugs, but he's back on track now. So we lost touch when he was going off track. But funny enough, when I was in Japan, we'd actually texted a bit, when he was going
okay,
through his trouble, because I'm almost exactly 10 years older than him. So I was
yeah,
kind of like a big brother. And that's kind of the relationship we have now too. I mean,
nice.
not that he needs a big brother, but he kind of, I mean, it's just the dynamic,
Yeah, yeah,
because, I help him with his coaching business in terms of just becoming more profitable and things
yeah.
like that. But yeah, so I talk with Travis and Van very regularly.
Wow, okay.
Um, yeah. And then, I mean, there's some, like, for example, like Chad Coy,
Yeah.
Mark Philippi,
Oh, you're.
Carl Gillingham. I mean,
Oh
these are
boy.
guys you see,
Yep.
and it's like you never missed a beat.
No, those are camaraderie back then. It was just a smaller pool of you guys. It really was. I mean, there was
Yeah,
10 or 12 legitimate pro heavyweights in
yeah,
the United States. And now, of course, we
yeah.
have this bigger athlete pool, but we don't have as much personality, Jon, I don't think, as we used to. Is that a fair to say? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that, like, back in the days where we were, you had a lot of personalities everywhere.
Yeah, you
Like one of the Russians that we used to love was Misha Koklyev. He was always so fun. I mean, it was just cock fucking strong and really talented as a strength athlete. But he'd do something that nobody else could do, and then he'd fucking start dancing.
right, right. Yeah. There's a little
And
less
so,
serious nature to it. It was more like good old fashioned lifting in the gym with you guys.
yeah, I mean, you had to go out and you had to kick ass. But
Yeah.
when you had a guy like him, that was so easy for him. I mean, keep in mind, these are guys, they're fucking loving life. I mean,
Oh,
go
yeah.
at home versus, I mean, the way that we're treated on the road, they're loving life. So,
Oh,
but it
yeah.
was, to answer your question, I would say, I think the sport right now, I think we're seeing a new series of younger guys come in that are starting to realize that, okay, I need to kick ass and bring some entertainment value.
Absolutely.
Actually tomorrow, Evan Singleton's coming on our show.
Who's that guy? Yeah.
And so, there's a perfect example. Here's a guy who, he's big, he's strong, and he's a little crazy, and that craziness kind of comes out in his personality, which that creates something that's entertainment value.
Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. If I had to pick one guy right now with a big personality, it's Evan for sure.
Yeah,
and he's definitely got some work to do to put his performance behind his mouth right now. But I would say that I would bet on him. That's for sure. The guy's a beast.
And there's nothing wrong with, in terms of creating some, I guess I can't, obviously in the wrestling world, you're trained to create controversy.
Yeah.
That's all you want to do. And so, to have somebody in a real sport, obviously when you run your mouth and you get your ass kicked, of course, that doesn't feel very good. But at the same time, when you run your mouth and you can back it up, people can't fucking get enough of that.
No,
and Evan's young, and I see his, his curve of getting better is going straight up. So, I don't think if there's something he can't back up at the moment, he'll be backing it up real fucking fast.
I got a feeling, he's going to be fun to watch. I predicted he would win a couple shows this year, including the Shaw Classic. I know he's going after the big one, but I'll start there because that's a fun show. Jon, so your strongman career ended with a back injury, didn't it? Did you hurt yourself?
Well, I had actually ruptured a disc early on, and I'd actually ruptured a couple of discs. I had ruptured two One was, it was the L1. God, I'm having a brain first. My wife's in the background just told me S1, L5.
Okay. Yeah.
And so that one was complete. I just ruptured that to the point. But I mean, it was like when it first happened, I was like for 10 days, I couldn't get up. It was brutal. And anyway, so long and short of it is, this was right at the front of me getting started, and where I finally I'm traveling. I was going to be damned if that was going to stop me. So I competed on that thing for a long fucking time. And it was actually one of the St. Patty's contests where I re-ruptured it, because ultimately what happened, if you compete it long enough, it'll kind of close itself back up.
Yep.
You know, because it's like a jelly donut. Yeah. When you rupture it, that jelly comes fucking squirting out, but then that part will kind of heal itself, and it'll be a little bit more stable.
Yeah.
Either that happened, or I basically ruptured the one above, because I remember the exact same feeling in that St. Patrick's Day contest when I did the first one. And so it was brutal. And really what it came down to is I didn't care, because I wasn't going to stop. But what did happen was, competing on it so long made it so painful to the point where I was getting myself quite a painkiller addiction to deal with the pain competing.
Right.
And then I realized that when I basically realized that my left calf was atrophied.
Oh, gotcha.
Because the nerve had been inhibited. So then I realized, okay, I have to get this fixed.
Gotcha.
And so they basically fixed me, and they said, look, it's pretty chewed up in there. If you go back to what you're doing, you're going to be back on this table real fucking quick. So that's where I went to wrestling. And
it's crazy. You go from blowing your back out in strongman to doing what you do in the ring. How the hell does that correlate, Jon?
well, it was a little bit more controlled. And to be totally honest, at the time, I didn't know much about wrestling. Yeah. And I made this fucking jump pretty fucking blind, you know. I had an agent at the time, you know, because this was back in my strongman career. This is back when the .com boom was going. So there's tons of fucking money floating around in terms of sponsorships and shit like this. So I'd gotten some commercials and done some pretty cool stuff. Like I actually had a 2006 Super Bowl. I was in the commercial for that, which was pretty fucking cool. Oh, I'm gonna go back. Anyway, so it was called Sports Heaven. I was pulling a bus. That was actually the world's first attempt at streaming information to a phone. Okay. ESPN was gonna stream sports scores to a phone, but the technology wouldn't support it, and the whole thing went belly up. Anyway,
that even existed, yeah.
And so my agent says, look, he says, you know, if you want to continue to make money, if you want to keep me, because he's, you know, wasn't like he was getting paid from my purses in strongman. He was getting paid from the shit I was doing outside strongman.
Right.
He's like, they say that you're going to be back on this table real quick, which means your career will be over. If you want to continue to make money as an athlete, we're going to have to move you. And I'm like, what the fuck are we going to do? And he said, pro wrestling. Oh, and I was like, what? I was like, holy shit. I mean, I never was a pro wrestling fan. I watched it only because I liked it, like when they're flexing their fucking muscles, you know, when the Ultimate Warrior ran down. Yep. That was once they started wrestling, that wasn't so exciting to me anymore, you know? Yeah, I got you. And so, me too. So I went into wrestling with literally very little idea of what it was all about. So yes, wrestling beat me up quite badly, but I was a little ignorant to how rough it was going to be when I made the switch.
Yeah. I was going to say maybe there was something there, but you wrestled in Japan, which I find unique, because that is a ruckus crowd over there for wrestling, isn't it? I mean, that's a crazy. I've talked to some other guys that have been associated with that scene over there. It's not like it is here. It's like really in your face, isn't it?
They call it strong style, and that's why I could exist there, because I didn't know how to fucking do this shit. Yeah, you know. And so I get over to Japan. So just like my strongman career, just instant success. Well, bodybuilding, same way. Well, so as I switched to wrestling, I started to learn, because I had to go to a school to learn how to do it. Right. And so and then I had to do a match in a fucking high school gym, which is just like unbelievably embarrassing at the times. I'm going from amphitheaters filled with tons and tons, thousands and thousands of people in Eastern Europe, to 60 people in a fucking high school gym, you know? And I was
Okay.
like, what the fuck did I do?
Yeah.
Anyway, you have to do a few of these matches to get some footage. So my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, is filming me because all we want to do is get this footage to get to my agent so he can start fucking marketing me in Japan. So my 7th ever wrestling match, which was like 9 months from the retire of Strongman, to my first fucking pay-per-view in Japan. That was my 7th match, and I had like very little time in the wrestling industry. So I was literally, that's how quick it happened. And I mean, didn't know what the fuck I was doing. I was scared to fucking death. But what I did know was I had a few things that I needed to do in the ring. And I knew that I needed to fucking flex and scream like I was fucking wild.
I love it. Yeah.
And so the flexing and the wild screaming, I was no stranger to that. You know, it's almost like the feeling of winning a strongman event that it's just this emotion coming out of you. Right. And you're just fucking going, you're fucking loving life. You know, you're celebrating. Well, I was getting that same type of energy from, 20,000 people fucking cheering. So it was a pretty easy transition.
I bet. Yeah.
The problem was I just didn't know what the fuck. I mean, I could, you get called out, you go down to the ring, and then there's this choreographed, 6 or 8, 10 minutes that's supposed to happen. That was the fucking scary part.
Yeah,
for me anyway.
I heard you knocked a guy out once, like cold, out cold.
Yeah. I mean, because ultimately sometimes there would be beefs, where. So I come into wrestling, which is not a true sport. Guys are fucking grinding away trying to get high on the card, because the higher on the card, the more money you make.
Sure.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I get brought in not because I'm a good wrestler. I get brought in because the way I look, which they're not going to put some, forgive the term, star attraction. It was good wrestlers. They didn't have it been on the roster that looked like me.
Right.
So they were going to put me out late in the show. And that pissed off a lot of people, because they were supposed to be the ones that were going to be climbing the ladder to get into that semi or into that main event. And so long and short of it, sometimes the matches would get a little fucking heated. And so a few times, it gets heated and you get your opportunity, and okay, this is the finish of the match. I'm going to fucking put you down hard. And sometimes they just didn't wake up.
But by the sounds of it, though, if I read your history right, it kind of puts you in a real good spot. I mean, listen, you were unique. Obviously, you're unique, Jon. We know that. But in Japan, especially, you're a cartoon character. You're not even real over there. So you did pretty well over there, didn't you?
Yeah, no, it was great. I mean, they teamed me up with a guy named Nanabu Nakanishi, and he was a legitimate badass because he represented Japan in 2 Olympics for Greco-Roman wrestling. So he was a bad motherfucker, hands down.
Good partner to have, yeah.
Yeah, and then I came in as a legitimate strongman athlete. So in the wrestling world, in Japan especially, they love legitimacy in the ring. It's more believable.
Okay.
So they teamed us together. The fucking people ate it up.
Yeah.
And so literally the first, we'd only been teamed for like 6 months, and we started winning these big fucking awards. Like, we won the best tag team in Japan. They instantly start putting us into the big push to win the belts. And of course, it's when you say the belts, it's all planned. But when you have the fucking belts, you're making a lot more fucking money.
I bet.
Your merchandise is selling more.
Sure.
I mean, and we were in a good spot because we just kept, and they're never going to let you win right away. You got to have 5 or 6 matches before you take the belt. That's what creates the fucking, the business. That's what makes the business. And so we had like 3, maybe 4 attempts at winning the belt, and we're getting so close. And everybody in the company, because nobody knows what's going to happen. The bookers keep it all fucking quiet, right? Yeah. And everybody on the tour bus, everybody's like, fuck, the next one, you guys are going to get the strap. That's what it's called, the strap,
Yeah.
And fuck, it was just a house match. My fucking tag team partner broke his neck in the ring.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, he took a German suplex, fucking pow.
Wow.
And so, so that put a real quick end to what we were. We were called Muscle Orchestra.
Muscle Orchestra.
The Japanese names, you know.
Oh,
I mean, and I wrestled a lot. I actually wrestled a lot in Mexico too.
You did,
yeah. And I got it down there was where more of the beefs happened. I didn't really have beefs with people in Japan.
Yeah.
Because they realized, the Japanese wrestlers realized, yes, I came in and I went into a good spot, but look at me, I paid my dues.
That's right. Yeah.
And that's what they saw. They're like, I mean, I showed up over there. I worked. I mean, fuck, I outworked most of everybody. You know, just that's my nature. You know, I'm going to go to the fucking, because you're going to have a workout before the show. I'm going to go to the gym in the morning. Then I'm going to do the workout with the company. Then I'm going to wrestle. And I'm only going out at night if it's a sponsorship where I'm told to go out. I'm not just going out to go out. That was just, and the Japanese looked at that like, this fucking guy's here to work. And so there was instant respect. As to where Mexico, that's where the beefs happen.
Yeah, I bet.
You know, where because they're just, they don't care. They don't care where you're from, what you've ever done. I'm supposed to be in the main event next. And so that's where, you know, most of the beefs went on.
Did you, I bet you enjoyed that a little bit though, didn't you, John?
Well, you know, it's honestly when it first starts to happen, it's, you know, you're in there. And for me, when it's getting rough, I'm thinking this is making my job a lot easier because I have a hard time making it look rough if it's not rough.
Yeah, I get
so I'm thinking perfect. Fucking the harder you hit me, the harder I can hit you back.
Yeah.
And the next thing you know, you're getting fucking hit in a spot where you're not supposed to get hit. Now it starts to change. You know, like perfect example, if you're going to give we call it a flipper, a forearm, right?
Yeah.
You're supposed to land that right in the fucking neck where it's soft tissue.
Yeah. You
start getting those fucking flippers up by the ear, that'll knock you out real quick.
Yeah.
And so you give me a flipper to the ear, it's
over.
on.
Yeah, it's over. Well, you know, so you go through, obviously everything you're touching is turning into gold, right? You're a bodybuilder pro, you're a strongman pro. You started a bit late. You get into your wrestling days, which I would love to talk about that for 12 hours. I'm sure there's some great stories there. And so you find yourself kind of after these 3 careers, right? I guess really 2, you know, all together collectively, these 3 careers. The gym life has been a part of your life since that junior year in high school where you picked up a weight.
It's the glue of the whole fucking thing.
It's everything. Yeah. So you find yourself back at home. You're done wrestling. What's next? What was going through your head? Because if anybody looked at you, John, right now, they'd say he could be a wrestler right now. He could be a pro bodybuilder right now. If your back allowed you to do it, you'd probably be a strongman right now.
Well, I'm still actually a pro bodybuilder. And because of COVID, I haven't competed in a few years.
Okay.
But I only have competed, even though I'm old, I've only competed in the open pro.
Okay.
So, you know, obviously I'm going to start competing again this year. I got to have I just actually had I guess it was a sebaceous cyst. I had a huge fucking sebaceous cyst removed out of my back. Like if you look at bodybuilding pictures and I'm doing my back shots, you look in the center of my back, you can see this fucking lump in there.
Well, I did see that. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so what happens was, so my wife used to take a fucking big sewing needle and jam it in the middle of it, right? And then she would take a pair of pliers and squeeze. Oh God. And it would the shit would squirt out of there. And that's how we kind of managed it, you know, because we know I was going to have it cut out of there. Sure. And then anyway, so it got to the point where we couldn't do that anymore. So we couldn't, because it would get big and it would go away. Yeah. It'd get big and go away. Anyway, so I just had to have it removed. So I had that done. That I got to have an abdominal. I got a couple of hernias that I've had for a long time, but now one of them, some of my guts are starting to come out like holes. So I got to have that fixed. So I got to have a hernia surgery. Then later this year, I'm going to compete again, obviously in bodybuilding. So that's going to be where I'm going to be able to go back and see if I can still hold my own in the open. If I can, fucking great. If not, I got to start competing in my age group, which, you know, at some point a man has to start competing in his age group. I just didn't know when it would be.
No, and I love that, John. I'm the same way. I mean, I'm getting back into strongman after a rough year I had last year. And, you know, being my age, I can compete in masters, but I'm going to give the open a shot too. You know, what the hell?
Fuck yeah.
You know?
Yeah. And the thing is if you can compete, you're okay.
That's right.
If you're just getting your ass kicked every event, you're okay. Well, then maybe it's time to go on. But there's no reason you should go to your age if you're still competitive.
It's
because you're going to get you're going to get so much better preparing for the best.
Yeah, that's right.
So to answer your question, I mean, basically now bodybuilding is what I do in terms of my athletics.
Yeah.
But, fuck, man, life is just in that place now where even as a bodybuilder, you compete, once, twice a year, So, my wife and I, it's great. I mean, she's the only person on the planet who can handle being with me every fucking day.
Yeah. She's got to be something special, Jon. Honest to God.
And so we're together all the time. And when COVID hit, we basically sold our place in the northern part of the state, came down to the southern part of the state. We bought this nice place out in the warm, it's in the desert.
Yeah.
It's literally, it's an acre. Hold on. Sorry about this. Yep. Phone going again. Basically, we've got this acre. It's on a private lake. So you can swim, fish, ski, jet ski. It's got this huge outbuilding. Basically, I've got a gym out there. And then our guest house, our vacation house in Mexico is 6 hours away in Baja. So what I'm doing with my coaching, no matter where I am, I'm good. Yeah. So I'm in a sweet spot of life right now, brother. So I'm thinking my lucky stars. It's fucking beautiful.
It was a culmination of a lot of hard work, Jon. I know the bodybuilding is just something fun for you to do to hang on to some of your athletics now, but really your main thing right now is information. I mean, you're sharing a lot of it. You're coaching a ton of people. You're changing a lot of lives. I mean, if you haven't, those of you out there that haven't had an opportunity to look at Jon's book, Deep Water, I mean, it's a special read, and it's everything you are, Jon, and more. I mean, that's really the continuation of as you see yourself moving forward, a couple bodybuilding shows here and there, but you're jumping on these platforms now and just sharing your life.
Yeah. I mean, really one of the things that I realized, and of course, like Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was one of my early inspirations, and some of the things that he says that I've heard him say really affected me too. And a long time ago, I heard him say this, and I didn't understand it till I got a little bit older. He said, there's going to become a point in your journey, and he's speaking to people he's not speaking to the 9-to-5ers, right. He's speaking to the people that have done some special shit. He said, there's going to come a point where you're going to realize that giving back and sharing your knowledge, passing your knowledge, helping other people with what you've learned is going to be more satisfying than, your own earning another accolade for yourself. And I'm right now, I'm kind of right on that fence in the regards that
you're feeling that.
I mean, it's like granted, I get paid for what I do with coaching, but the real paycheck is when I help somebody do something they didn't think they could possibly do. Yeah. I've helped more people see their abs for the first time.
Yeah.
But the best part about it is that's their goal. What they don't realize is in the process to get them there, I'm going to help them create all sorts of positive habits in their life that's going to help them get the abs. But at the same time, those positive habits translates into a better existence. And so it's almost like, to a certain extent, people come to me because they have a very surface goal.
Yeah.
But in actuality, their life, to achieve that goal, I'm going to structure habits that's going to make their whole life better. So I don't sell myself as a life coach, but in actuality, that's kind of what happens. Their whole life gets better.
Yeah. And I found it interesting too, that a majority of your clients, and you actually gravitate towards this, are like middle-aged guys.
Yeah.
And 100%. To be able to make those changes with somebody that's already developed these habits over 35 years, that's not an easy thing to do.
Well, here's the thing, brother. If someone will follow, first off, I say, look, you got to be open-minded. If you're open-minded and you follow my lead, in the first 4 days, you're going to feel something is different in a very good way. And it's not just I feel different. It's like I've got, more energy. Their problems that they came to me with are clearly starting to go away right away.
Right.
And that's where it becomes so easy, because people don't want to sit and wait.
No.
And with my diet and the way that I developed my own system, it is so different than what's out there.
Yeah.
It's like people have never even taken, it's like they've never even stepped into this place that I exist. And so it's so new and it's so powerful and it works so well. It's just kind of mind blowing for them. And the best part about it is I teach it. I don't just say, here, go do this. I say, look, this program is designed to teach you as much as you can. If you're a student of the game, when this is over, you're not going to need me anymore.
Right.
And
right. It's a
so
different
that's
type
the
of coaching
part
from that perspective. You're giving people
so
the tools they need to go out there, just get on with life.
So basically, it's almost like my contribution that's above and beyond coaching, so to speak, is look, you're paying me for this time, but I'm going to teach you how to do it yourself. I'm not just going to give you fish in this time.
Yeah.
When we're done, you're going to be able to go catch your own fish. And that doesn't really exist much in the industry because, and I've had a lot of clients actually, because they'll say, this is not a very good business plan. Well, fuck, I've done pretty well for myself. I don't really have to do anything. I do it because I want to. And so when you're doing something because you want to versus because you have to, you do things, it's two completely different pathways.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, right? Because the idea around the industry is retention. I'm going to keep people with me forever because they can't do it without me.
I don't want retention. I mean, it might take, some people get it in 6 months. Some people get it in 12.
Yeah.
But I tell everybody, this is going to happen as fast as you will allow it to.
Yeah. Hey, if you've been with me 18 months, you've been here too long, is what you're saying. You better get to work.
Because literally, because I could make a freaking goat self-sufficient in 12 months.
Right. Yeah, teachable.
So and really when it comes down to it is the learning curve just keeps getting deeper and deeper. So a lot of times people will be self-sufficient earlier on, but they're still learning so much they want to continue.
Yeah.
And so that's my thing is if you're still learning and you're still having your eyes open to shit that you didn't know existed and you want to continue, that's fine.
Yeah.
But the goal is to make sure that if I die tomorrow, you can continue doing this without me.
Right. And the best part about it too is, John, I should say the icing on the cake is you practice what you preach and you're a walking billboard. You're not telling guys to do shit out there that you haven't done your whole life and you're already continuing to live it and look it. And that's a big thing. Cause I tell you personally, when I see these coaches and trainers, I'm like, hey man, if I'm looking better than you right now, something's going on. Yeah.
No, and that's exactly the truth. I mean, I tell, just when people ask me questions in general, I'll say, listen, number one, do not take advice from somebody unless they have been or are currently where you want to go.
Right.
Because you can't ask someone who's never done it for a piece of advice that is really going to suit what you need. You need the perspectives of already been there or currently there now.
Yeah.
And then the other thing, one of the reasons why I coach, people that are in, it seems like that kind of 35 and up, 30 and up, but probably more 35 is because this is where most people, it's a wrestling term, mail it in. They kind of give up. It's over. Right.
Right.
That is so not the truth. I mean, I can take someone who's been, they've put everything into it. They've hired coaches. They've done this. They feel like they've done everything. Well, except me. Yeah, right. You listen to what I got to say.
Yeah.
And it's going to be totally different. And the thing about it is this, most people, they want to get, and nowadays people want to get lean, right?
Yeah.
They want to get rid of body fat. Well, those people are also very used to being hungry and suffering to lose body fat.
Yeah.
Under my wing, you do not have to do either. Right. And so people are like, how is it that I'm eating all of this and I keep having to cut a new hole in my belt?
Yeah.
I said, because we're working from the other side of the equation.
Yeah.
It's like, here's the equation. The whole fucking industry is over here. There's very few of us that understand how to make this side work.
Yeah.
And when you come at it from the right side, it's almost like the flow is going this way. Well, everybody's trying to work against the flow. If you learn how to do it from this side, it just happens for you.
Yeah. Well, listen, I've been 35 for quite some time now, maybe a few more, yeah, for 15 years, as a matter of fact. So I'm well aware of what it takes when you get older. And that's why I like your perspective, because it really is. But again, you're proof's in the pudding. That's all you can say about that. Jon, you got some fun stuff going on. You guys are doing a podcast. That's I watch it. It's entertaining. How did you get on board with Akeem and Nick Best?
So basically, this whole thing, the idea kind of came around over a year ago. So the sponsor that I had way back when, my first real sponsor, was Gerard Dente, who's the owner of MHP and also now Muscle.
Okay. Yep.
And so I was one of those guys, and this was back in the day before social media. So he was literally buying the athlete, not the social media following. Yeah. So he literally came up to me at a show. Hey, I'm Gerard. I'm the owner of this company. I'd love to see if we can work out something for sponsorship. So I've had a relationship with him, since 2001.
I was going to say, yeah.
And so he's seen my personality kind of, with all the shit I've done, it makes me a kind of I guess you'd call it an interesting individual.
Yeah.
And so basically, and keep in mind, I don't use supplements anymore because supplements granted, if I had no food, I'll drink a protein shake, but you're not going to ever get me bringing a protein shake in front of real food. And so, he's kept me on board, but obviously the utilization is a little different because I teach people not to do that. And so, and he understands that. Really cool. So if you see me in a picture, you're going to see me that's for muscle meds. You'll see me looking at a big steak, not a fucking can. I'm not drinking the thing of protein.
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Anyway, so Gerard said, hey, he goes, this is like over a year ago. This had been almost 18 months ago. He said, look, I got this idea, doing a podcast. It's basically a form of marketing for muscle meds, because he brought me to that brand because that's real in your face, which is kind of me. Yeah. Uh-huh. And so he had this guy named Adam Paz. He's pretty well known in the industry, kind of behind the scenes. Like he manages a lot of big guys. Like he's Kai Greaves' manager, and he even has some rappers and shit like that. So Adam was going to put the show together. And Adam is one of those guys, real cool cat, young, kicking ass, but so many opportunities are coming at him. He gets too much on his plate, and it kind of just was taking such a long time. So Gerard and I just pulled the trigger. I said, okay, well, so if we're going to do this, let's make this something that kind of involves everything that I've done. So I can have some co-hosts. So Nick represents the strongman world. Obviously, we used to compete together, which is really fucking cool. Yeah. Obviously, I'm the sole wrestling portion of the show. Yeah. But then Akeem Williams, we've actually competed together a little bit too. When he was first coming up, we did some shows together. And so he's the bodybuilding part. So I kind of represent the whole thing. And these guys are the strong suit in each one of those categories. So it just makes for a really fun in the Legends of Iron, the title is really anything where anybody has used the iron to do great things. That's so really it makes for a really, really cool name / angle, bodybuilding.
I love it.
Literally it does. I don't give a shit if, we found somebody who was lifting weights and found a way to do greatness that was called XYZ. It doesn't matter. It's the fact that the iron was the common thread, know?
Yeah, I like that. And I also like the fact that you got a diversity in your co-hosts. You guys are a motley crew. When I saw you, I was like, how does this work? Nick is pretty laid back, and I watch him a lot and follow him. I met him a couple of times. He's not as outgoing as you are by any stretch. He's pretty calculated. Akeem kind of ties you two together a little bit, I guess, but it's a great show. I love it.
Yeah. And then ultimately the whole concept is we needed, like when Gerard and I were kind of brainchilding, we had a few different possibilities for Nick or for Akeem in terms of bodybuilding. And we just needed strength and we needed bodybuilding. And Nick, I've known Nick for so long. We're boys, and he's perfect in the fact that he's strongman and powerlifting at the highest level.
Yeah, he is.
And then he also we couldn't have three people with my personality. It wouldn't work. You know,
Yeah. No,
we
no.
needed to have the zing and the zang, you know. So Nick's a little more laid back. And so we're like, okay, now let's look at what our bodybuilding possibilities are. And so obviously we needed someone that was going to kind of, now we knew we had Nick and myself, we needed someone that was going to kind of be that third counterpart, but was going to work.
Yeah.
And so it just worked out well with 100%. So, and it's been great. So my job is to make sure that there's something, because we're always, the guests are great. We got a whole lot of great guests that are coming on.
Guests, yeah.
But the key is my job is to make sure that there's at least one legitimate fucking laugh out loud moment on that motherfucker. Because
I would say there's about 20 actually. One would be a really bad day for you, Jon. A really bad day.
You know, because it's, if you look at some of the original, you know, I guess you say rock stars of talk shows.
Yeah.
Like when it comes to podcasts, Howard Stern was the pioneer.
Yeah, he really was.
And people, the number one reason people tuned into him, because they wanted to know what was he going to say next.
What fucked up shit he was going to say next.
Yeah. So obviously the fact that we're bringing on guests that, you know, we all respect and everybody likes, loves, we have to do that in a very respectful way. Yeah. But, you know, for the most part, what we're really trying to do is just have, it's straight up. There's no editing. If there's ever some sort of a clip, like where something got put together, is because somehow the guest fell out of the show or something. We don't edit it. We don't edit it at all.
It's raw and so, as truthful as it can be, it comes out. Yeah.
And we're actually, I think later this year, we're currently working on it to where it'll go out live and go to the streaming platforms. Okay. So we just actually did that with Mike O'Hearn, because he actually has with his team, he has the ability to do it right now. So he's like, hey, let's fucking put this out live. And so it was, when it was going out live, it just makes for like, the energy is a little bit more crisp, because you can't redo it. No. Even like with the introduction, you know, when I'm doing my intro, you know, of course, if I really screwed it up, I could say, okay, everybody stop. Let's wait another 10 seconds. I'm going to start again. They just cut the front of it off. Yeah. You know, but I try to hold myself accountable even when we're recording. But when the live is there, it just reminds me of like when I was wrestling, you know, when you see that, when that camera is there and that fucking little red light is blinking, it means there's only like a 2-second delay between what you're saying and what's hit the people. Yeah. And there's no stopping. I love it. Yeah. And so going to live, I think, is going to just bring an element to the show that, you know, there's so many great podcasts out there, so many great things to listen to, but there's very few that are going out live. So we really want to, You guys are the perfect co-hosts with the perfect personalities to pull that off. I'm not sure a lot of people could, but I know you guys can do it. I'm surprised, Jon, over the years, you haven't had an opportunity to do television. Have you ever had anybody come to you and want to do any type of reality show with you? You know, I've actually been approached with that a few times. I've actually had some stuff I've done with, I was on a few little bits, like, what was it? It was like a Real World or Road Rules. I was on Road Rules, a couple little bits here and there. And I've done a few little bits of TV. But in terms of like me with a reality TV show, you know, I mean, you hear people talk, but the people love to talk, you know? So I've done some, but I enjoy that shit. I mean, I've been in a couple of movies, did a wrestling documentary that was pretty nuts. That thing, funny enough, during the filming of that, 3 wrestlers died during the filming. Yeah. I mean, it's, you know, people don't realize how often wrestlers die, you know, whether it be from an injury, a drug overdose, you fucking name it. Right. But yeah, no, I've heard people talk about that, but nobody's ever actually, you know, brought me something with any real teeth. And, you know, and nowadays, I would honestly wonder nowadays with YouTube, there's so many people, there's so many, you know, I guess you'd call it social media reality stars. It's not like it was 10 years ago.
But I tell you what, there's only one Jon Andersen out there, bro. I don't care what anybody says. I would watch your show no matter what it is, because you're a personality that a lot of people have come to love, man, because you really do wear it on your sleeve, and I dig it.
Yeah.
And I appreciate you coming on the show today, man. And this is really a shining moment for Gym Life Podcast to have you on here. I really appreciate it, and all the things that you've done, brother, and all the great memories you've brought to me and a lot of people that I know over the years, and now what you're doing with your podcast. And I'm going to love to see this new bodybuilding thing come out for you next year. So, and hopefully we'll keep in touch, Jon, and, throw some ideas off one another. And I'd love to, build a relationship with you and have you back on the show.
Oh, brother, we had a great talk here today, but we didn't get real deep in any one topic. There's plenty of shit for us to talk about.
That's right. Hey, we're just getting to know each other, Jon. We'll come back and do it the right way with some topics next time.
So, and keep in mind, I enjoyed the show very much. This is great, but obviously with me, it happens with just about every podcast. There's kind of covering my timeline. Okay, then let's talk about this portion, or let's talk about this portion, because I've kind of had, I've had 3 careers all smashed into one. And I think that's probably one of the biggest compliments I get from people. They say, I would dream of having one of these 3 that you had.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
absolutely.
So, yeah, we could have a show about each different section of the athletic career, brother.
Yeah, I plan on keeping in touch, Jon, because I would love to do that with you. Yeah,
you let me know, brother. Absolutely. Obviously, we're in terms of, we're kind of podcasting brothers. We want everybody's shows to do well.
Hey, there's plenty of love to go around out there, man. Rising tide rises all ships, bro. So
that's it.
I appreciate you on today, and again, thank you very much, Jon Andersen.
You got it, brother. I appreciate your time. Have a killer day.
Thank you.